Okay, a few people have asked me about front of center as it applies to crossbow arrows and crossbow hunting. How important is front of center? How do you calculate it? What do we do about it? That sort of thing. Now, why do we care about front of center? What difference does it make? Well, one of the reasons that it is a concern, it is an issue, is because the broadhead, the weight up front of your arrow, is going to pull the arrow through the air, and that's what creates your accuracy. That's what guides the arrow. So we want to know how much weight we have up front. Now, more weight up front may or may not increase your accuracy. This is a standard arrow, or a pretty standard arrow from Excalibur that goes with my crossbow. It's the arrow that the manufacturer recommends. It's what I use. It's a Firebolt, it's called, from Excalibur. I've got the Exact on here, the Exact 100 grain broadhead. It's a mechanical broadhead. For those of you who have been wondering and been following Death by Bungie, you know that I am contemplating changing broadheads for next year. I might actually start in another month or so with a different broadhead. Only one way to find out if I do or not, and that is to subscribe if you haven't already. I have not made any formal decision on that yet. I am testing a couple of different broadheads. I've whittled it down to 3 different broadheads, and I'll be making a decision on that soon. And of course, that video will be part of Crossbow Appreciation Month. 31 videos in 31 days here on Death by Bungie. August is Crossbow Appreciation Month because we have the hunting seasons right around the corner, and it's a good time to appreciate your crossbow. Get out there, shoot it, go through and test it, and do all that good stuff. Maintain it, make sure it's ready to go. This arrow, when we talk about front of center, does have that 100 grain broadhead on the front. Also has a Burt Coyote Luminoc in the back that was installed by the factory. I've installed those Luminocs on each of my arrows so that they're all the same. I like to keep all of my arrows identical. That way I can always have a good stock of arrows on hand. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't calculate front of center. I don't get hung up on that sort of thing. But people ask about it, and I wanted to address it in a video. So what I'm going to do is show you how to calculate front of center and how it is done. Essentially, the first thing you got to know is the length of your arrow. If I measure this entire arrow overall, from the end of the Luminoc, top of the Luminoc, all the way down to the tip of the broadhead, it is exactly 22 inches in length. This whole arrow rig is 22 inches in length. The next thing that we have to do is we have to calculate the natural balance point of this arrow rig. Now that's including the Luminoc, including the broadhead. And what we're going to do on that, you really should have a little fulcrum to do that on, something like a little piece of plywood, piece of wood, or something like that. But you basically want to find the natural balance point of it, where that arrow balances. And that's about right. And then we're just going to put a mark right where that is touching my finger. Now again, to be more exact, you would use something that's very precise to measure that. We're just going to simply take a tape measure, and we're going to find out that it is 2.25 inches. 2¼ inches difference between the midpoint and the natural balance point of the arrow. Now it's all over except for mathematics, the fun part, right? You got to take that 2.25, got to reduce it to a decimal to make it a lot easier, but take that fraction, 2¼ reduce that to 2.25, and we're going to divide that by the arrow length. Death by Bungie. And then all you're going to do is make that a percentage. You're going to multiply it by 100 to get a percentage, because we express front of center in terms of percentages. What percentage of the arrow weight is in the front of the arrow, front of midpoint. So now we've calculated the front of center percentage. What do we do with that information? Well, if you're like me, you take that information and you just throw it away, forget about it, and never use it again. And I kind of mean that. I don't mean to be, sort of dismiss it that much. But the reality is, calculating front of center when it comes to crossbow hunting in this day and age, for me, and I think honestly for most people, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference. This is a stock arrow rig, a 100 grain broadhead on a 265 grain arrow with a Luminoc added, just so I can trace it a lot better and find it a lot better and make it look better on video. But essentially, this is just what the manufacturer sells me. And when I run out, I buy more. And when the vanes come off, I get the exact same vane put on it. I don't tinker with it. I don't do anything with it. This has worked for me more than 24 times on deer. I have killed 2 200-pound hogs with it, boars, and had no problem. Every time I've hunted with these, I've been satisfied with them. Not saying I brought every deer home, but I can honestly tell you that front of center didn't make any difference in any of the hunting situations that I've been in. The stock arrow gets the job done for me. It more than likely will get the job done for you in your hunting situations as well. That's something that's between you and your manufacturer. Whatever they recommend, I recommend that you stick with that. And the reason for that is simple. I think the manufacturers have tested these setups in almost every hunting situation, every outdoor situation that you could ask for. They've already done all of that work for us. We don't need to repeat that. We don't need to go out there and duplicate their own tests when they do that for a living. That's their job. They want you to succeed with their gear. That's why they test it, to make sure it's the best it is. And by making you succeed, you're going to tell your friends, you're going to buy more of their gear, your friends are going to buy their gear, and so on. That is why they have every incentive to make sure that their gear is going to perform properly. So stick with what they recommend. That's generally a good rule of thumb, I believe. If I was going to go to Canada and hunt a moose, maybe this isn't quite enough arrow, but maybe it is. But that's a decision I can make on that limited circumstance. It's not one that you're going to make based on all of your hunting situations to increase the front of center on all of your deer and all of your hogs. This basic arrow can get the job done. So in the end, I know it sounds boring. Once again, I sound like a broken record with recommending what your manufacturer sets forth with your arrow rigs. But the reality is what I do, I buy the stock setup, I put the broadhead of my choice on there in 100 grain, 125 grain, or 150 grain broadhead, and then I hunt with that. That's what I use. And I use field points to match the weight of the broadhead that I intend to hunt with so that they are consistent. Accuracy is number one with crossbow hunting. If you put a broadhead on here and it's accurate, if you use a certain weight of field point and it's accurate and it's consistently accurate every time you pull the trigger, that's all you're looking for when you're hunting with crossbows. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this is a good Crossbow Appreciation Month video for you. And until next time, all hail Bungee.